tonight. The province's health authority speaks out as nurses raise concerns about the state of maternity wards. Regina City Council pledges to protect an area of natural grassland. And a look back at the Labor Day Classic's origins and how sport in Saskatchewan has brought people together through the years.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, August 29th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. The Saskatchewan Health Authority says it is aware of issues around staffing in the province's maternity wards. It comes as nurses and the NDP opposition continue to sound the alarm on the effect the staffing crunch is having on patients. Jeremy Warren has our top story.
Saskatchewan can't hire nurses fast enough for its maternity wards in its two largest cities. And healthcare workers say that's putting mothers and their newborns in danger. Nurses are speaking out about what they call unsafe working conditions at Saskatoon's Jim Pattison Children's Hospital and Regina General Hospital. Anonymous letters published by the Saskatchewan Union of Nurses say those maternity wards were dangerously understaffed last month. Poor timing because July is one of the busiest birth months. The Saskatchewan Health Authority confirmed the low staffing levels.
Knowing that we've got that, like July is a high demand month, we typically staff up to be prepared for that. And unfortunately in Regina and Saskatoon, we've actually seen a high number of staff vacancies during that period of time.
The SHA says as of July 25th, there were 504 births at the Children's Hospital. That's slightly more than last year and well above the typical 436. The union's letters also raise concerns about a lack of beds, outdated equipment, and improper care. The provincial opposition says the government failed to prepare for the surge of summer births.
In the end, patients end up paying the price. In this situation, that would be new moms in a state of, vulnerability. And they are paying a price for this government's approach that focuses more on spin than on solutions.
The Saskatchewan Health Authority says hiring is underway. It added 20 full-time equivalent positions for the Children's Hospital maternity ward and has plans to add another 56 for the maternity ward at Regina General Hospital. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A Saskatoon teen accused of setting a classmate on fire will stand trial in the spring. The case against the 15-year-old will unfold at Court of King's Bench in two segments. It will begin May 4th and run to the end of the month. It will then pick up again on June 15th. The teen allegedly poured a flammable liquid onto a classmate and lit her on fire in a hallway at Evan Hardy Collegiate last September. The victim sustained burns to 40% of her body as a result. A teacher who tried to put out the fire was also injured. RCMP say they've charged a man with arson in connection with a massive wildfire that started earlier this year. The Ditch 2 fire eventually burned more than 200,000 hectares. It destroyed properties and caused the evacuation of several communities in the area around Waiakwin back in June. Investigators with the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency were able to determine the wildfire was human-caused. They've now charged 29-year-old Jason Halkett with one count of arson with damage to property as a result. Halkett was arrested in Saskatoon this week. He made his first court appearance in provincial court on Thursday. Well, it is a piece of the prairies in the middle of the city, a section of natural grassland within Regina's city limits. Now, City Council says it has decided that that land should remain untouched. Alexander Kwan has that story.
Right next to Regina's Caledonian Curling Club, there's a piece of untouched nature, a rare example of a prairie grassland in an urban landscape.
And we know in the Regina Plains, we've lost more than 99% of it. It's gone for cultivation to agricultural crops and urban development. So it was such a gift to find this stuff, still here, hanging on in the city.
And the hidden gem is no longer just an empty field, thanks to a decision at Regina City Council.
briefly, the motion is about, certainly protecting part of our history and story as prairie people. I think certainly our connection to grasslands is not only part of our DNA, but maybe our story as the Regina Plains.
After a unanimous vote, approximately 22 hectares of this city-owned land will now be protected from development and maintained as a reserve.
It deserves it. It's a real treasure here in the city.
It's a win for environmental groups and naturalists like Trevor Harriott, who have campaigned for years to get this space protected.
Make it a place where people feel welcome to come and at least imagine what the prairie once was.
Nature Regina says there are more than 100 species of plants that thrive here. There are also mammals, insects, and birds that call this place home. All of them will benefit from the new reserve. And Harriott says, so will we.
Sometimes having a place like this that you can retreat to in quiet and solitude is very healing. So I always think of it this way. If we heal the landscape, we have an opportunity for it to heal us.
City staff will now work with Nature Regina and the city's Elders Advisory Committee to come up with a name for the reserve. That still needs council's approval. But for now, this section of grassland in the midst of the Queen City is safe. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Canada's small businesses are no longer able to ship small packages to the U.S. duty-free. The de minimis exemption, which allowed goods under $800 U.S. to enter the country without extra fees, has ended, with a July executive order by President Donald Trump now in effect. That means those shipments will now be subject to duties of up to $200 U.S., depending on the country of origin. Canadians can still send letter mail and gifts under $100 U.S. for no extra cost. And companies that meet the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement will, in theory, still be able to ship duty-free. And the financial pressure from Donald Trump's trade war is showing up in the latest GDP numbers. According to Statistics Canada, the economy shrunk by 1.6% in the second quarter as U.S. tariffs squeezed exports. The figures showed that GDP declined at an annualized rate of 0.4%, following a 0.5% gain in the first quarter. The contraction was driven by significant declines in the export of goods as well as decreased business investment in machinery and equipment. Exports declined 7.5% in the second quarter, which ended June 30th, the biggest drop in 5 years, according to StatsCan. The family of a Saskatoon boy with a rare genetic disease is hoping a gene therapy treatment undergoing approval in the U.S. will help their son. 6-year-old Emmett Doucette has Sanfilippo syndrome, which mimics the symptoms of Alzheimer's. There's no cure for it, and most with the disease only live into their mid to late teens. Without the treatment, Emmett's condition will only get worse.
Emmett loves to play and he loves to run around, and he is really high energy and really loving the life that he has right now. Emmett's condition is very rare. There's only one other case in Saskatchewan. So we started to see some developmental challenges with Emmett. His speech was delayed and he wasn't meeting some of his milestones. And so somewhere around 18 months, we started some speech therapy with him. And then when he was 4, we went in to get him tested for autism and ADHD. And as part of that assessment, the pediatrician said, well, I don't think that it's only autism. I think there might be something else, so we should test.
We went to JPCH that day. I did, unfortunately, Google the word on the way to the hospital, and then your heart just drops because terminal, neurodegenerative are the main words that pop out.
We're really lucky so far. Emmett is still maintaining a lot of the skills that he has, and so we spend all of our therapies and our playtime with him, ensuring that he can maintain his skills as long as possible so that he's able to keep running, playing, eating by himself. And so we've been quite lucky so far that we haven't seen any of the major regressions that are expected to come over the next few years. 1 year into the diagnosis, when we're just investing and enjoying the time that we have with him, we hear that there could actually be a commercially available treatment for Emmett's condition coming out this year, actually. Since then, that application has been delayed.
Time is of the essence right now. The longer we wait, the kids are going to lose more and more skills, and they don't get them back. So we want to help as much as we can. The clinical trial has great results, and it's just, this is going to help our kids. We only have one life, and we're going to make the most of it. And Emmett deserves the best childhood, so we're going to do the best that we can.
Well, those stands at Mosaic Stadium will soon be full of fans for the annual Labor Day Classic. Stay with us. We'll bring you a preview of Sunday's game, as well as look back at some of the history of that matchup. And Riley Lachuk will tell us if the weather will cooperate for game day. That's all coming up after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are inching closer to the Labor Day Classic. Game day is now within reach. Longtime CFL offensive lineman Jamarcus Hardrick is no stranger to this heated rivalry. His first ever start with the Riders was in the Labor Day game back in 2015. He then spent 7 seasons with the Blue Bombers before returning to the green and white last year. Hardrick knows firsthand just how loud the crowd is during the game.
I don't know more about the sideline. I know it's mayhem on the field from being on the other team. You can barely hear anything, and like I said a while ago, the fans love on their team here hard. And when I say love on the team hard, it's like the noise you hear is them loving on each other and loving on the team, and you hear it on Labor Day.
The Riders have also re-signed receiver Ajo after he was cut from the NFL. He was with the Riders last season. Cornerback Marcus Sales and kicker Brett Lowther both returned to practice as full participants Friday. Saturday is Rider Fan Day at Mosaic, where fans can get autographs from players and coaches down on the field. The sold-out Labor Day Classic kicks off the next day at 5 o'clock. And this is the 60th edition of the Labor Day Classic between the Riders and Bombers. But the history of the matchup actually goes back much further than that. Riders historian Rob Vanstone takes us back in time.
Initially, there were 4 teams in the Western Interprovincial Football Union. And so Rough Riders, even before the Second World War, but more traditionally after, were having a Labor Day weekend game, typically on Labor Day back then. And the opponents would rotate through. Winnipeg was one of those opponents, the first one post-Second World War being in 1949, a Taylor Field record of 7,500 people. Riders won 20-0. And but through the early 80s, about half of them were Winnipeg and half of them were other teams. There was Montreal for a stretch and Edmonton, BC for a stretch. And then in 1982, Winnipeg came here. It was a terrific game. 83 was a classic. 84 was down to the wire. And it's just stayed Winnipeg from then on. Those teams have tended over time to bring out the best in one another. It makes a lot of sense to have these teams playing each other on the weekend, on this weekend, but then some of the games we've had, some of the moments we've had, some of the memories we've had have really cemented it as being something special. And you know, it's one of those games you can just count on without being presumptuous, a full stadium and lots of buzz and lots of Bomber fans and lots of intermingling and lots of fun.
And the Labor Day Classic is just one example of how sports bring people together in this province. And now a new exhibit at the Provincial Archives is looking at the history behind that. Sarah Onyango has that story.
The Labor Day weekend in Saskatchewan means football. Every year, fans pack Mosaic Stadium to watch the Riders face the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But they're not the only team people in this province have rallied around.
Obviously, the Rough Riders are really paramount in front of mind for a lot of people, but there's a lot of really interesting history, sport history in the province.
The Provincial Archives of Saskatchewan is highlighting that history with an exhibit about how communities have come together around sport. Many records come from questionnaires collected in the 1950s, with residents recalling picnics, makeshift high jump competitions, and large swings.
And we did find a photo of a giant swing that was constructed for people to use and play on. And I thought that was quite interesting because given that the vast majority of communities are on the prairies, there's not a lot of trees, I guess swinging was quite the commodity.
Historians say these early events help set the stage for bigger traditions, like the Riders' first official Labor Day game against Winnipeg in 1949. The late afternoon game day we know today was introduced so that football wouldn't interfere with other sporting events. But there were still many differences between today's games.
The first thing you notice is that they're not wearing green. No one was wearing green. Whereas you see today, everyone's wearing green just about.
And since 1982, Winnipeg has been the Rough Riders' permanent opponent, making back-to-back weekend games that are now one of the CFL's fiercest rivalries.
If you want to see what CFL is like, or what the excitement of CFL is like, those two games, the Labor Day game and the week game after, are really the pinnacle games of the season for those two teams.
And as fans prepare to pack the stands this weekend, the exhibit offers a reminder that sport in Saskatchewan has always been about more than the game itself.
But I wonder if they attend this event, if they'll kind of gain a more richer understanding of the history and a richer appreciation for what they're participating in.
From early sports days to packed stadiums, Labor Day in Regina has always been about community and tradition. Sarah Onyango, CBC News, Regina.
And we are starting our long weekend with some cloud cover building into Regina and parts of southern Saskatchewan. Still hot, though. Will this nice weather continue for the Labor Day Classic? Well, weather specialist Riley Lachuk has the answers for us. Hi, Riley.
Okay, Ethan, big game, of course, happening this weekend. And weather, well, you know what? Maybe we'll call this one a touchdown as we get through the weekend here. 29 degrees, mix of sun and clouds as that game is getting underway in the afternoon hours on Sunday. 5 o'clock kickoff. Maybe a thunderstorm rolling through. There's a weak risk that we do get into maybe a couple of thunderstorms into the afternoon, but we'll call it a mix of sun and clouds right now. Heat warning has expanded since we talked on Thursday, now including Prince Albert, Hudson Bay, La Ronge, much of northwestern Saskatchewan as well. This is because we're looking at forecast highs through the weekend, upwards of 30 degrees. With the lows closer to 15, 16, 17. So as I've been saying throughout the week, not a lot of relief even coming through the overnight hours. I mean, not overly humid. There'll be some humidity, but not oppressive as we get through the weekend, but certainly looking at that heat continuing as we get through Saturday, Sunday, with some relief coming as we get through the day on Monday. Looking big picture, you can really tell where this ridge sits right now. 31 in Edmonton this afternoon, 31 in Saskatoon, into the 30s for parts of Manitoba through the afternoon as well. Comparing that to the eastern side of the country, 18 in Toronto this afternoon, 20 in Windsor, 18 in the nation's capital. So quite a difference west to east through the afternoon once again today, all because of that ridge that sits over really the western side of the country here. Taking a look at temperatures closer to home, many 30s, 31s on the board this afternoon, 19 in Maple Creek. That's because we have seen some showers in the southwestern corner of the province, even some thunderstorms into this in places like Swift Current down into Maple Creek through the afternoon. The rest of the province, a mix of sun and clouds throughout the day. Today, that ridge still firmly in place over Western Canada. You can see how this really arcs up into the Northwest Territories with this deep ridge down into parts of Eastern Canada. We are looking at things resetting a bit as we get through the weekend. So a few more showers yet to come into the early morning hours through western parts of the province, into a mix of sun and clouds for the rest of the day, Saturday into Sunday. Then we start to change things around a bit. A bit of a cold front sweeps through as we get through late Sunday into Monday. And this could trigger a few showers or some thunderstorms through the late afternoon into the evening hours on Sunday. So just note for that football game that we could run into maybe a couple of showers, a weak risk there, but I think that the risk is pretty insignificant at this point, but it is possible. So looking at our temperature trend as we get through into the next few days, still into the warm temperatures in the western side of the country as we get through into Monday, but you can really start to see how that ridge starts to break down as we get into the early part of next week. So quick look at your temperatures into the afternoon, 23 to 25 through western sections, 29 in Saskatoon tomorrow afternoon, Ethan, by 4 o'clock, 30 in Regina. We'll talk long range when I come back.
Okay, thanks, Riley. Well, it's been a gorgeous week to catch the action at the Canoe Kayak Canada Sprint National Championships down at Wascana Lake in Regina. The event wraps up Saturday, so you have one final day to catch it if you have not seen it yet. Stay with us. We're back after the break. Welcome back. Kids across the province, of course, head back to school on Tuesday, and Saskatoon Transit is making some changes to bus routes in hopes of leaving no passenger behind at the start of the school year. Mike Mullenbeck of Saskatoon Transit breaks down some of the changes.
A big change that we're doing is in the northeast. A number of those neighborhoods we're looking at, like Evergreen, Willow Grove, those routes, those neighborhoods up there served by routes 43, 44, 45, and 46 are going to have 30-minute frequency where they used to have 40. So there's going to be more buses up there, and at times larger 60-foot articulating buses. So that should help with those passenger loads and help get people where they need to go. In addition to that, the Route 4 that leaves from Nelson and Low going past University all the way to downtown, that'll be coming by every 7 or 8 minutes, depending on the time of day. And the Route 10 and the Route 17 from Stonebridge going to the university is going to have 10-minute frequency during the day too. So these kinds of changes are going to add a lot of capacity, a lot of seats for people, and a lot of space to get people where they want to go. But as we've talked before, we always want to make sure people plan ahead, realize that if everyone hops on the same bus, there's only so much room. So we see a lot of new people using the buses at this time of year, people that may not have used it before, and everyone always tries to get the last bus to get them right on time. So expect that for the first little bit. There might be a couple issues, but we've got people out. Our team is out observing things, and we'll be out there starting on the 2nd.
Okay, so if heat and humidity is your thing, well, not super humid. Heat, at least, we are looking at that through the long weekend here. 32 in Regina by the late afternoon tomorrow. Mix of sun and clouds. 30 into Sunday for the Riders game. 29 by about game time. 28 into Monday. Then look what happens when that cold front sweeps through. We get back to school, maybe some showers into the early part of Tuesday at 20 degrees. Then we get a bit of heat back as we get toward the end of the week. 25 for Thursday, 24 for Friday. Saskatoon, we drop a little bit sooner into early Monday, so we are looking at 23 for Monday, for example, but still temperatures through Saturday, Sunday, at least close to that 30-degree mark. Then back to school, a high of 20 degrees on Tuesday, Ethan, and then we get a bit of sunshine back, and temperatures start to build once again slightly as we get toward the end of the week. 25 for Thursday and looking at 26 on the way for next Friday.
Looking nice. All right. Thank you, Riley. And that is our news for this Friday. For more news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/Sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks for watching. Have a great long weekend and go Riders.